Hey, let's start a religion. That's what Hassan Bfly is trying to do. Or at the very least, he's got a new idea how to justify God that really gets him absolutely nowhere fast. So today, we're going to evaluate a video, a website, and we're going to try to read a book. If that's not enough for you all at once, I don't know what is. So, here we go. I came across this theist called Hassan Bfly, and in digging into his claims, because let's be honest, he has no arguments and he certainly has no facts, these are just bald assertions presented for emotional reasons, I found that he's a good representative for the religious mindset that we see so often. He's nuts, and so are all the rest. Most of them just aren't this blatant about it. So we're going to dive into Bfly's theology and find out that it just doesn't stand up to critical muster. None of them ever do. Ever. But I don't think we really expect it anymore, do we? This is why we just point and laugh at the religious. They've got nothing worth taking seriously. And Bfly here is no exception to the rule.
Everybody with a pulse has an opinion about God.
Yeah, but that doesn't make the opinion correct. People have opinions about just about everything under the sun. Most of those opinions are downright stupid, though. Most people are dumb. That's the unfortunate reality that we have to face. Just because people have opinions doesn't mean that they're valid or factually defensible. People believe in ghosts and Bigfoot and alien abductions too. And those are still stupid beliefs. Just like God.
Whether they're religious, atheist, or somewhere in between.
Yeah, but again, just because people believe a thing, that doesn't make that belief rationally valid. And a lot of people, they don't care, especially when it comes to religion. They believe because their beliefs have been forced into their heads at a young age before they're capable of rationally evaluating them. They have faith because they want to be part of a community of believers and feel that they belong. They believe because it makes them feel good to do so, whether any of it is at all defensible or not. They believe because they think they're going to lose out on something if they just examine their position objectively and demand that what goes into their head must be the most intellectually valid ideas that they can manage. That's terrifying to some people. But the failure to do that still makes them stupid. Nobody should be satisfied with being stupid. Nobody.
That's because they're all missing the facts. Hello world, I'm Hassan Bfly, self-taught, non-prophetic messenger of God.
You're crazy. You really are. Because really, how can you be a self-taught messenger of something that you can't prove is real? Especially if, as this guy said he is, non-prophetic. Well, if God doesn't talk to you, then how are you his mouthpiece? Or are you just saying that you don't provide prophecies, which means you've got no means whatsoever to prove that you're not just a fraud? Jim Jones, David Koresh, tons of examples of people who have claimed to speak for God or who have pretended to be the reincarnations of Jesus, and then the Kool-Aid comes out and all of your followers die. It's a good thing this guy only has 30 subscribers as of when this video is being written. At least the body count will be low.
And I can use common sense and math to prove God is real, but different than what you'd expect, without ever appealing to faith or quoting the ancient scripture.
Oh, this should be good. Because we've seen claims like this before, and it's always been complete bullshit. This will be too. I'm sure we're going to get yet another, and we call that God, without ever demonstrating that it deserves or qualifies for that title. It's God because we want it to be. No, it's God when you can prove that it actually is. But he won't prove anything. Not at all. It will be just another bald attempt to justify pre-existing beliefs without providing any objective evidence that any of it is true at all. Because that's what the religious do. Because the religious are stupid. But go ahead, Bfly. Show us what you've got.
Doubt that's possible? Well, go to zerothemavgod.com and get acquainted with the 2 facts and 1 opinion of intellectual righteousness. Or check out the book, Theology for the New Millennium.
So, you're selling a book. I knew it was a scam. They all are. He says that he has 2 facts and 1 opinion, but as we've already established, opinions mean jack shit without proof to back them up. So, at the end of this, I'm going to go over to his website and take a look. And at the moment, I have no idea if it's all behind a paywall or whatever, but I'll see what he's offering, and we'll call him out on his scam if that's what he's doing. Anyone want to place a bet before we get there? Because I'm willing to bet he's just trying to make a buck off of gullible, stupid people.
You can read it for free or order it in either print or digital forms.
Okay, I can admit I might have been wrong. I guess you can read it online, which is something, I guess. But we'll still have to take a look and see if it's anything worthwhile. Let's let him finish up his video, and we'll go take a look.
My personal favorite is the audio ebook. It allows you to read along as you listen to me deliver the message as a speech it was written to be.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Valid modes of thought aren't written to be speeches. They are meant to be researched, verified, and tested objectively. Science doesn't work through speeches. Science works through intellectually valid, independent research. It's a lot of people verifying the work of other scientists until everyone is convinced that it all works the way that it's claimed to work. It's people trying to disprove and debunk bad ideas. So that's the way I go about looking at religious apologetics. That's the way I'm going to look at the claims that Bfly is making. So the video is over. Let's go take a look at his website. So here's the site, and for those just listening to the video, here's the text. If you're tired of having to choose between accepting things that don't make sense in order to believe in God or rejecting God totally in order to feel smart, this book is what you've been looking for. In it, Hassan Bfly proves God is real, but different from what is expected using common sense in math. Okay, sure. There's nothing in math that points to anything supernatural. So my conclusion early on that this is going to be another one of those crazy "therefore God" arguments seems pretty justified. But let's look at the book and see what it has to say. Now, he has this one thing called 2 facts, 1 opinion. So I'm going to look at that first. And I'm reading from the first fact here. Now, the first time I tried to look at this, the website went tits up with a 503 error, and I had to come back later to keep examining this supposed fact. But once I got it working, this was his fact. God is to reality what 0 is to math. Yeah, I'm calling bullshit right there. 0 is conceptually there. God is not. God is just an idea that has no application in reality. So right there, he just loses completely. But let's read on to see if it makes any more sense somewhere down the line. Even though there are multiple definitions for the word God and more versions of God than can be counted, the common theme among those that claim there is only one is God is the creator of the universe. Because of the limits in language and learning, descriptions of God include elements of what was created. This is supposed to help people relate to God or imagine the reality, but it causes confusion. The atheists are good at pointing out the contradiction that must follow describing the Creator in ways that fit the created. Sure, but that doesn't make those claims about a God, any God, factually correct. This assumes, as usual with no evidence, that a God exists based on the common claims made by people who believe that some kind of God is there. But that's not how reality works. There are lots of claims about sea monsters too. That doesn't mean you can just take all of those claims and distill them down to their commonalities and then assume that composite version must be real. That's not how any of this shit works. Sorry, try again. Simply recall the lesson on absolute value or look objectively at zero within math, and you will see zero does everything in math that God is supposed to do in reality except meddle and throw temper tantrums. You will also see every godly attribute would apply to zero except those that imply emotions or other human-like qualities. The reality is so different from any expectations or previous versions of God, theists and atheists alike will try to deny it. Any attempt at rejection will result in contradiction, though. So basically what he's saying here is, I'm right because I'm right, and if you tell me I'm wrong, that only proves I'm right. Yeah, how childish is that? Because this is just going around and around and around in a circle, trying to rationalize an emotionally comforting belief without ever being able to prove that belief is factually correct. And that's what really matters here. Is this claim, is this assertion, is this belief actually correct in the world that we all share? This is no different than any other apologist out there. Start with a conclusion that you like, then try to work backwards until you get it, making crap up along the way to make it look more reasonable. And there's nothing reasonable in this whatsoever. You cannot start with the assumption that God exists because lots of people seem to believe that God exists. That's just dumb. And he spends the rest of this supposed fact arguing why people will reject his claim. He never once offers anything but wishful thinking and bald rationalization. He's right because he has to be right. And that's not rational. So let's move on. The second supposed fact begins with God is heaven or hell. Well, how is that a fact? You haven't established God exists at all yet, much less that there's a heaven or a hell. This is where apologetics as a whole goes right out the window. They will make bald assertions backed up by absolutely nothing rational and then pretend that because they said it, they've somehow proven it and now they can just consider it true. Hey, I can do the same damn thing. The flying spaghetti monster, yada yada yada, insert into some kind of unjustified claim. Therefore, the flying spaghetti monster is real and I can treat it as though it's a proven fact. Except it's not, because that's fucking stupid. So let's continue. Understanding God is absolute would include knowing God has no opposite, equal, or peer. Just as God is the sole creator of all that we can witness or measure, God will be the sole destroyer of it all. The law of conservation confirms neither matter nor energy have the power to create or destroy. Death does not end any individual's existence. Only returning to God can do that. Well, where has any of that been proven? Where has he even made an attempt to do any of that? Where have you ever presented a demonstrable example of a God for rational evaluation? He hasn't, and he won't because he can't. Now he's just stapling characteristics on this imaginary God of his because he just so happens to like those characteristics. This is not a fact. This is an arbitrary assertion not backed up by anything but logical fallacy. Remember, he started with the assumption that because lots of people have ideas about gods, that must make gods real. Argumentum ad populum doesn't make anything a fact. It just makes people look at you funny because you're an idiot. And then he goes around just dismissing all the potential arguments against this because, of course, he can't be wrong because he really wants to be right. So that's just stupid. He's got no facts. He's got nothing but religious bullshit. All right, calm down. This is dumb, but okay. Let's move on to his opinion, which really, this is all just 3 opinions, because he hasn't gotten anywhere close to a fact yet. So this starts off with, remember the 2 facts. Well, I can't because you haven't presented any yet. I can remember your claims, which is all they really are, but they're nowhere close to being facts. So get on with your opinion. If it's based on those stupid claims, you've lost already. Anyway, the goal of intellectual righteousness is to eliminate perception and imagination from the theological discussion while revealing the potential power of positive perspective through applying absolute value to all experiences. Understanding this basic mathematical concept and using it when contemplating God and reality is the key that unlocks amor fati without stoically numbing yourself to life's pleasures. Except we all know that experiences are not necessarily representative of reality. We know that the brain can and does malfunction all the time, especially under the influence of certain recreational substances. And I bet this guy's taken a lot of those just from reading what he's writing. Because absolutely nothing in here requires a God to be true. You can have positive perspectives without having an imaginary friend. You don't need to contemplate God at all. God is being shoehorned into this, and it is completely and absolutely unnecessary to do so. Because this isn't about facts. This is about feelings. It's about wanting to have a father figure in the sky, but not quite being able to justify traditional religion. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter what you want. It only matters what is actually true. And the only way to discover what is actually true is through demonstrable, objectively verifiable facts. And this guy doesn't have any. What he's saying isn't verifiably so. It's just nonsense wrapped up in a sock. But anyway, let's just wrap this whole line of crap up. This really is just dumb. Now, he might go into more detail in his book, I don't know, but if this is the basis for what he's saying, holy shit, this is pathetic. And I tried to go in and read the book online. I'm sure not going to pay him for something this ridiculous, but the second that I did, here's what I got. Now, I don't know if his services are just having a problem or not, keeping in mind that his whole website crashed earlier, but it seems mighty convenient that the second you click on read the book, it all goes down. So I can't just go and read his book, or at least at the moment I can't, although I may or may not circle back at some point in time and see if it works then. But if this is what he's basing his entire theology on, I've got no hope whatsoever that he's going to say anything intelligent. Because this is just dumb. It really is. But it's no dumber than anything else that any other apologist ever has to say. This is how religious apologetics works. Make shit up and just run with it. Pretend that you're right. Never give in to the demand that you prove it, because proof isn't in the religious playbook. All you have to do is make claims and pretend that it's so because you just want it to be so, even if it's not. This is why I'm not afraid to look at tiny little channels with hardly any subscribers, because even the least of these channels can teach us something about the big kids. This is what they all do, from William Lane Craig and Frank Turek all the way down to Hassan Bfly. This is how religion operates. Take an emotionally comforting claim, build it up by blathering on and on and on to the already gullible, and you've got yourself a cult. Or a religion. Same thing, really. And they don't want to talk to anyone who isn't already on board with their insanity. They just make up excuses for why they already know that they're right, and everybody else just won't admit it. Because this isn't about convincing people rationally that their beliefs are true, because they're not. They're all bullshit for immature children in adult bodies. And they don't like it that we've figured it all out. It's why they don't want to talk to us. Funny how that works, huh?